All right, fellas, go ahead and get into some college football a little early. So before we check in on the action from Friday and look ahead to today's games, let's go ahead and check in on the college football playoff standings. The playoff committees released their first rankings of the season just a few weeks ahead of the conference championships. The usual suspects do round out the first four teams, going in order of Alabama, Notre Dame, Clemson, and Ohio State. Texas A&M and Florida are the first two out, with Cincinnati knocking on the door at number 7 at 8-0. Some of the notables are Oklahoma up at 11 despite 2 losses, Iowa State at 13, and BYU at 14. So, Jay, what did the committee get right and wrong with these rankings, and who else still kind of has a shot at this?
Well, I think they got the top four. The top four is correct. I would probably put Ohio State up to 2, but I think I completely understand where the committee could be coming from. Ohio State, they just ain't played enough games yet. They're 4-0. Justin Fields is a legitimate Heisman contender, assuming that he could, accumulate enough statistics that he could win it. I like what I'm seeing from their offense. They're doing well. Their defense doesn't appear to be as dominant, but they can still get the job done for you. But I think the top four is absolutely correct. You got Texas A&M and Florida at 5 and 6. I'm not gonna sneeze at that. I mean, those teams have shown out this year, particularly Florida. I think Florida's been highly impressive this year. And then you take into consideration that their only loss is to Texas A&M, so it'd be hard. Although I might want to, it'd be hard for you to make the argument that A&M doesn't deserve to be one spot ahead of Florida at this particular moment in time. Obviously, I've been talking about Cincinnati for weeks now. I think Cincinnati, right now it looks to be a little bit tough for them. They're at 7. That's probably where I guess they would have landed. Problem for them is they only have, they got a game against Tulsa in a couple weeks, and then they'll have their championship game. So they're going to have Tulsa right now, I believe, is 25th in these rankings. So they're going to have that opportunity, and then they're the American Championship. So those are going to be 2, relatively good opportunities to, strengthen their resume. Northwestern, I think they're definitely surprising that they're right now leading the Big Ten West. So at this stage, it would appear that, if Ohio State can play enough games, that those 2 teams would meet in the Big Ten title game. That would be something to see. Some of these two loss teams. I don't know. Something about Georgia to me. I'm not impressed with them. I think I've about seen enough with the Stetson Bennett or JT Daniels or whoever Kirby Smart's going to put under center for that team. And then Oklahoma. I don't know why we even bother with them. The Big 12 is already, in my mind, they've played themselves out. I don't think they can get back in it. I think Miami at 10. I would probably have Miami up above Georgia. I think De'Aaron King has had a really fantastic season, and I think Miami right now is still in it. But probably outside of anybody else below Miami is you probably go ahead and rule them out. Indiana, they've already lost to Ohio State, so it would be highly unlikely that they could jump back and make the Big Ten title game. At this stage. So as far as teams that can still win it, obviously Alabama, I think we can go ahead and pencil them in. They look like the best team in America, and I don't even know if it's particularly close right now. And their defense seemingly, it looks like they've started to get their act together, a little bit more than we've seen in the past couple of years. Obviously, Mac Jones is playing lights out, with Devontae Smith making big plays week after week. And you know how I feel about Najee Harris. I mean, this guy's absolutely outstanding. And of course, Notre Dame, they control their own destiny based on, not having lost a game yet. I do think the one thing interesting about Notre Dame, if let's just say they wind up in the ACC title game undefeated and they have a rematch with Clemson. If Clemson blows them out the water, will that be enough to knock Notre Dame out? Because, Notre Dame was undefeated coming in and they beat Clemson. But I think that's just – it's going to be on the committee to look at them and say, well, does that win against Clemson, does it even mean a whole lot? I mean, you needed a backup quarterback. It took a backup freshman quarterback plus multiple overtimes for you to even survive against them. And then, Clemson at full strength just destroyed you. So I don't know if Notre Dame can really afford to lose. It could be another situation where they have to win And of course, Clemson remains in the driver's seat, but of course they lose one more game and they're going to be out. And then Ohio State, make a great point about they just haven't done enough, even though, I think your eyes would tell you they definitely belong. It's just, are they going to have enough kind of meat on the bone for you to say, yeah, they've done enough and they look like they deserve it. They've only played 4 games. And we look across at what they've done, Nebraska, Penn State, and Rutgers. I mean, let's get out of here. I mean, none of those teams are any good at all. I think the Indiana win means a lot. I think Indiana's a good football team, and it looked like, there were moments that, there was about a quarter where Indiana went toe-to-toe with them, and then Ohio State seemingly they dominated them before Indiana made a late rally. So I will say definitely Indiana, that's a real team over there. So that's definitely right now the one, I guess, feather in the cap of Ohio State. But then I think for when you look at Florida and A&M, A&M to me, I think they'd be out because they're not going to be able to jump in front of Alabama to make the SEC title game, you would think. But Florida definitely, they control their own destiny because they can run the table. They can beat Alabama, and by virtue of that, they could get in. I think Cincinnati, we'll just have to wait and see. We'll just have to wait and see how, I think right now they're going to need some help. They're going to need Florida to lose. I think if Clemson could lose another game, that would definitely help them. For Cincinnati, what you're going to need, just as I described, some of these one-loss teams who you would think would have an edge even with a loss, Cincinnati would be hoping that some of those teams take a second loss. And then I think Cincinnati would get an edge over them then. So maybe Miami as well. They'd probably like to see Miami take another loss. I think Northwestern right now, definitely in the driver's seat, even though I think it's hard to envision them running the table and winning the Big Ten. But if they were to do so, I think they'd be in. I think that'd be incredibly shocking, just given the prestige or lack thereof that surrounds that program. But they're incredibly well coached. Pat Fitzgerald's done an incredible job for them. But right now, I would look at, let's see, Bama, Notre Dame, Clemson, Ohio State, Florida, Northwestern. I think those are the teams right now that are in control of their own destiny. I think any other team you want to look at probably going to need some help.
So I think to start off with the positive, I like the top 6. I think the top 6 make a lot of sense as of right now. With this being the first poll, I had no problem with the top 6. If you want to, like Jay said, if you wanted to interchange, Notre Dame and Ohio State and Clemson, whatever, to each his own. But at the bare minimum, if you actually look at it, Notre Dame has the second best win out of those top 5 teams or top 4 teams. You have Bama. We know what they've been doing. Notre Dame, they beat Clemson. Whether it was backup quarterback, defense left it in the locker room, whatever excuse you want to use, Notre Dame beat Clemson. So Notre Dame do have the second best win in that top 4. Then you got Clemson. We know overall as a team talent, we know what they bring to the table. And then Ohio State. Once again, bigger sample size. We might feel totally different about Ohio State coming the coming weeks, even though they did get their game. Okay, I ain't going to get into that. We'll get into that on the next segment. But, we know what Ohio State brings to the table. Texas A&M and Florida, that will work itself out. So I think the top 6 is about where you need it to be at this point. The big controversy is going to be between 7 and 15. And what I mean by that, we're talking about Cincinnati, Northwestern, Georgia, and Miami. Here's the deal. For the people, I understand that Georgia is ranked high. I do. But let me play devil advocate a little bit. I think the reason Georgia is where they're at, because as a committee, when you look at these teams, and I'm just going to go from 10 to 15. When you look at the teams from 10 to 15, you cannot definitively say that those teams are better than Georgia. Like, even with what we've seen Georgia do as of late, you're going to say Miami is definitely better than them? Oklahoma is definitely better than them? Indiana is definitely better than them? It's just Iowa State. I got it. Oregon, we just seen what Oregon had last. Like, you cannot say any of these teams are definitely better. But when you look on the front end of the rankings, you can say those teams are definitely better than Georgia. Honestly, I think Georgia is the baseline for the top 10. I really do. When you actually look at it, because I'm looking at it and I'm like, okay, if you use Georgia as a baseline, it does make sense. These teams in front of Georgia, you give them a good chance to either beat Georgia, or at least stay up with them, and then the teams behind them, you know what I'm saying, or pick them or whatever the case might be. We know the biggest gripe, to go to some of the things that the committee got wrong. The biggest gripe was BYU, but here's the deal. Like, I got it. BYU been out here, the eye test, oh, they're smoking. They got an NFL first round quarterback, you know, et cetera, et cetera. Don't let that get too far ahead of you. I got it. Boom. What they got to do with the price of tea in China? Like, listen, you still not out here playing nobody. That's just all it is to it. You're not a brand name that can go out here and beat up on cupcakes and get credit for it. I'm sorry to say, that's just what it is. You play in a conference when most people couldn't find it unless they Google it. So what are you mad about? Here's the deal. This is what you need to do. There, BYU. It's a rumor going around. There's a certain team in the AAC conference. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to give it away. That got an opening. That's looking to make this game for you. Oh, by the way, it just so happened that team is a top 10 team. So if you can make that game and then you go and show us something against them, then maybe, you know, you'll get a little more respect. But I'm not totally mad with the committee. I understand, you know, people, oh man, BYU got messed on. Did they really? Like, if I'm the committee, I'm looking, BYU is better than Miami. They're better than Oklahoma. They're better than Indiana. They're better than it's just very hard for me to say that BYU is better than any of those teams. When I watched Georgia have to play Florida and Alabama. I watched Miami have to play Clemson. I watched Oklahoma have to play Oklahoma State. And I watched Indiana have to play Ohio State. Who the hell did I watch BYU play? Like, who did they have to play? I'm sorry. So when you give me that book, oh, the artists say they look good. Okay, who you plays matter. Now I got it. You play the schedule that's given to you. Cool. I got that. But you still can't complain about where that schedule puts you, because you got to play people for us to get, in order to get respect, you got to earn it. And they haven't earned it yet. This is what it is. So, you know, I know that was a big, you know, area of controversy, but it is what it is. And then another thing I wanted to say about that is this. Like, a lot of these teams in the top 10 have like I said, they have a marquee win. If you actually look at it, a lot of them do, not all of them, but a lot of them have a marquee win. So until you can give me a marquee win for BYU, I'm not trying to hear it. I'm just not trying to hear it. I think another barometer that was put once we seen this ranking get rolled out, that a loss is not necessarily a bad thing. It's not. And I like the more and more we go with these rankings, the more we get comfortable with the College Football Playoff Committee and what they do. I like it that a loss does not automatically put you out of the picture. How you lose can put you out of the picture, but losing don't automatically put you out the picture, right? Georgia's a prime example. They're not going to make the college football playoffs. I'm not saying that. But the committee still look at them as a top 10 team, even though they lost to Alabama and Florida. And it wasn't even, both losses were pretty ugly. But it's just the fact of, listen, your schedule is not the same as our schedule or the same as our state schedule. And we're going to give you credit for that. We taught this, if you go undefeated, you're fine. No. It matters who you play. It matters. And I like that the committee has come out and said, listen, I don't care if this team is 4-0. I don't care if this team is 6-2. This 6-2 team that plays some killers. And these killers, you're going to get credit for playing these killers. This is what it is. While you over there playing, you know, the Cupcake Central, the 7-year-old birthday party, they out here in World War II. It's not the same. It's just not the same. So I commend the committee for that. I hope we keep that rolling. And listen, I'm looking at the rest of this ranking. Hey, Pac-12, you're dead. You're dead, Pac-12. You're dead. If the rankings didn't tell you that already, and then after what happened, you're dead. Don't just give it up, Pac-12. You know what? It's time to go back, revisit that conversation you was having before the season. You might want to, you're dead. The only team that can say anything is USC, and who are they going to beat at this point that give them credit? Oregon? Maybe? I don't know. Now, tell me who they're going to beat that's going to give them credit. Like, right now, BYU might be more credible than USC. I'm just being real with you. It is
Pac-12,
what it is.
Yeah, Pac-12 is not going to have enough games, I don't think.
Right? And so if you lose one of them, not enough games, so the Pac-12 probably dead. I'd say the rest of it for the next segment. But listen, overall, I didn't see a lot of bad in this ranking. I played devil advocate as the rankings was done, and when I look at it, it makes a lot of sense to me. I understand why people had a gripe. It's your First Amendment right. Have your opinion. Say what you got to say. Keep it moving. But at the end of the day, I thought the committee did a very good job with this first ranking, with everything considered with coronavirus and everything.
I think when you start, just to jump back in real quick, I think when you talk about the scenarios like who gets in and maybe could one conference get two in, I think the Pac-12 and Big 12 to me, I think they're both out. I think the Big 10 likely gets one, probably Ohio State at this point, but, never know. Maybe it's Northwestern. But I think regardless, they get one. The ACC has a chance to get two. I think the way they get two is if Notre Dame, Clemson meet, and Notre Dame plays Clemson as tough as they can, they lose by, a field goal or a touchdown. I think in that case, you could make a good argument for Notre Dame if they play Clemson very tough at full strength. But then if Florida runs the table and they beat Alabama, I think Alabama's they're still going to look good enough with their body of work, and just the eye test tells you that they belong. I think that'd be the SEC, their hope of getting in. But Cincinnati to get in, obviously Cincinnati can't get in if they give a Power 5 conference two teams. So Cincinnati need to root for Notre Dame to go undefeated, and Alabama needs to go undefeated to knock Florida and Clemson out, and that could possibly open up the path for Cincinnati. I think that's the way forward for them.
That's a really good breakdown. Yeah, that's real simple and to the point of how this probably shakes out. The one thing I will say, BYU, I do feel like they were a little too low. I would switch them with Oklahoma. I'm sorry, I'm done with Oklahoma. I have no interest in Oklahoma.
What? Okay, but why? Why would you switch them with Oklahoma?
Because you lost to Kansas State, who then got blown out 37-0 by the other team you lost to, which is Iowa State. I'm sorry. Like, I get that they've turned it around the last couple of weeks. They got a nice win over Kansas, and then Oklahoma State, that was a good win. I mean, it was. But BYU
who
has been
BYU?
destroyed. BYU has destroyed everybody they played. They destroyed everybody they played.
Listen,
55-3, 48-7, 45-14, 43-26.
Name these Give me the team on BYU's schedule that's as good as Iowa State or Kansas State.
I don't even know what conference they play in.
I think that they have a couple. I mean, they beat 21. Boise State was 21. Oklahoma State was 14. You're telling me that's Oklahoma's signature win was a 14th ranked Oklahoma State. Boise State was 21st. Okay. They beat them 51-17. They have absolutely wasted everyone on their schedule. And my point is this. I get, okay, BYU is not a playoff team, or a top 4 playoff team. But to say you're 9-0 and you're 14, but then you tell me Cincinnati is number 6 in the country, and they beat some good teams, but I mean, honestly, like the level of competition can't be wildly off what BYU has played, and to Cincinnati's credit, they've taken care of their schedule as well for the most part. They had a little bit of a scare against UCF, which that's a little concerning, but they got the win. My point is this. If you're going to tell me that this playoff is to get more teams involved and get more teams in the thing, and then you're going to put a team like BYU at 14 who's done with their schedule the best they possibly can. I mean, they're not just squeaking by games. They are wasting everybody they play for the most part. So I just felt like 14 was a little too low. I'm sick of all these 2-loss teams with their brand names just sitting around, getting all the respect and getting all the benefit of the doubt. If you had a gun to my head today and Oklahoma and BYU played, I would take BYU. I would. They have better quarterback. To me, they put up a better resume.
Nope. I ain't doing it.
Now the Georgia's argument I get a little more. If you put a gun to my head and you said Georgia or BYU, I would have a harder time. I might have to hold on and take Georgia if the gun's to my head.
I might have to take a bullet.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, but it sucks to say like, oh, we got this playoff and we're expanding all these teams, but then a BYU goes 9-0, which by the way, they played 9 games. Some of these teams have played 4, and they get to be a top 4 team. BYU's played 9 games, which that should count for something, especially in a year like this. And they're going to probably play 10 or 11, and then it's, oh, yeah, well, 14's all we got for you. I'm sorry. Like, I don't know. To me, it's just a little disrespectful.
I get where you're coming from. And, again, I brought up the 2 lost teams, most certainly. Mm-hmm. Georgia and Oklahoma, and I get it definitely when you look at Georgia. They've lost to Florida and Alabama. So we obviously know, the SEC going to get a little bit of respect there. But yeah, I mean, Oklahoma, that's just a reputation thing as well. And just the Big 12 as a whole, they're just down this year. I mean, they're just overall down. And we sitting back not too long ago hoping, is it going to be Oklahoma State? Can we rely on them? No, we can't. But when you look at just what BYU has done, I think when you win that many games, and even though it's against teams that I don't even know some of them who they are, and I'm dead serious, like this recruit requested knowledge. What conference do they play in? Because that matters when you're talking about, especially BYU and Cincinnati. Cincinnati plays in a legit conference. The American is a real football conference, almost to the point is like I would put them up against the Pac-12, and I'd like to see who's going to stay in the Power 5. The AAC might be able to knock them out of there.
BYU
so that's why I'm
independent.
Oh, they're independent. Okay, well, but then I think both of you are correct. But
they should have did the same thing Notre Dame did. That's what they should have did. They should have.
When you look at BYU's schedule, I mean, seriously, like what'd you say, Boise State? I mean, that's true, but
that's their one top 25 win at the time of play, but they destroyed them. I mean, they ran them off the field. If I blind tested Cincinnati's schedule and BYU's schedule and said team A, team B, I don't think you guys could reasonably, point out, oh, that schedule's way better than the other one.
Well, Cody, you should have blind tested us then, and we would have been some believers.
I'm not.
You should have did it, buddy.
Caping for BYU.
Okay, so you just gave me one game for BYU. Cincinnati, we already said they're not an independent. They play in a real conference. Army was ranked when they beat them. Southern Methodist was ranked when they beat them, and they crushed them. We also know Memphis is usually somewhat good, and they beat them by 39. And then Central Florida is normally good. They beat them. They still have a game against Tulsa, and they still have their conference championship game. So I mean, I don't get what's equal about this.
I'm not arguing that they're necessarily at or better. I'm just saying that their schedules aren't wildly apart. I mean, BYU's not out here beating up Division III schools. It's just, I don't know. To me, 14 was a little. 14 was.
I think 14 is a little low, but I think that Cincinnati schedule is way more compelling than what you. I mean, you still have it. You gave me Boise State. Who else did you give me? I mean, I just looked at. They just beat Northern Alabama last week. BYU.
Yeah,
the north part of Alabama.
So you think? So
if you're playing a weak schedule, you're crushing everybody.
Where do you think, Cody? So where do you think BYU should be ranked?
I would put them at 11. I would literally flip Oklahoma and BYU. I would put them at 11, and I put.
So
Oklahoma
you would put BYU in front of Indiana.
Yeah.
Indiana's better. Indiana's better than.
Wow. Indiana's probably better, but Indiana's played 5 games, and I mean they lost. They lost to Ohio State, which
they lost is better than any win that BYU got. Their loss is better than any win that BYU got right now.
I'm saying 9-0, man. You're crushing everyone on your schedule. I feel like that in the playoff era, that should mean something more than 14.
If you want to, I ain't gonna be mad. I think there's nothing wrong with that. If you want to move them up to 11, in the end, it doesn't matter because they're not getting in. So,
I guess that does get hard because fair enough. I mean, I would say that Indiana's been impressive. So I don't know. Maybe my qualm is just with Oklahoma versus BYU, but case neither here nor there. We do have to move on at some point. So I'm just saying, the BYU deserves a little more love than they got. Sick of all these 2 lost teams flopping around up here, and
I ain't mad at you on that.
Brigham Young's, whatever their mascot is, they're down there at 14. The rest of the I agree. The rest of the top 6 was great. No issues here. Florida's got their path in. A&M probably doesn't have a path in at this point. I think if A&M would have lost Alabama by like a field goal, they probably have a lot more of a case. But getting destroyed in that game. Like that's rough to overcome. But it is telling that the committee still thinks they're the 5th best team. I mean, that's saying something. Those kind of clues do matter when you're looking at these rankings. I don't think Northwestern is going to give Ohio State much fit, but we'll see. And yeah, Cincinnati's got their path in, like you kind of broke it down at the end there, Jay, and the rest of these teams go through. I'll just say again, Notre Dame again. Yesterday, not impressive, but we'll get to that in the next segment.
Oh yeah. In the next segment, I got something that Ian book hype train. Yeah, all right.
Yeah, stand by.